going to something that, you know, is being mentioned, and I'm sure some people have heard it, but we're going to dispel the idea that, you know, Israelite only salvation started with One West. Because there's something going around where it seems like the One West and the brothers that are outside in the, you know, that teach on the streets, that somehow this is something that was just introduced in the late 60s with the One West. I think it was Dr. Malachi. I don't know if it was Dr. Malachi Z. York, but I know the Promise Keepers and some of the other Israelites during that time, specifically One West and the One West camps. Then after that, reading the House of David, so on and so forth, that this is a recent thing. How many of you have heard that the Israelite doctrine that started with One West, where the salvation is only for Israel? So we want to get into that. According to the scriptures, what does it tell us? That there's nothing new under the sun, right? So let's see if, you know, salvation only began with One West. Let's go into the scriptures and let the scriptures speak. Come? All right. So, Israelite only salvation, I'm going to submit, did not start with One West. The assertion that Israelite only salvation is a new concept created by the specific group of One West Israelites is simply untrue. Now, you won't find this teaching on Google. You're not going to be able to Google and say, well, did salvation only for Israel start with One West? It may tell you yes. I don't really care what Google says, because Google, sometimes it can be correct, but just like 1 Thessalonians 5:21 tells us to prove all things. The information on Google is given by whom? Men. And a lot of these men and so-called historians or scholars are biased, because these are the bloodlines of people that hid the truth about who the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, and Seminole Indians of indigenous descent truly are. Even to this day, they really don't want to come out and say who the Israelites are, right? And knowing that history is clearly there. So you may not find this on Google. But the assertion that the Israelite only salvation and it being a new concept created by One West Israelites, that's a farce. There were groups of people during the time of YAHAWAH'S who also shared the belief in Israelite only salvation. One group specifically, this was the main group during the time. This was a group that lived during the time of YAHAWAH'S and before YAHAWAH'S. One group specifically were called the Essenes. The Essenes were what you would call a Jewish, some would say Jewish, we know that were Israelite sect, or for teaching purposes, you'll find the Essenes and they'll describe them as a Jewish religious group. But this was an actual group during the Second Temple period. And if any scriptures click to you, you know, you're welcome to bring them out, but I just want to lay a foundation right now. They were known for their strict observance of Jewish law or the Torah, ritual purity, and strong apocalyptic views. They followed the Torah and the prophets. Now, you know what's interesting about that? Where do we see in the scriptures where the Messiah said the same thing? John 5:46. Matter of fact, let's grab that. If you don't mind, Officer Shalak, let's grab that. John 5:46. So they followed the Torah and the prophets. Captain Joshua, you get Isaiah 8:20. Go ahead, read what you got.
This is John 5:46. For had ye believed Moses, ye would have believed me, for he wrote of me.
Read up, Moses.
If ye believe not his writings, how shall ye believe my words?
So if you don't believe his writing, so we know that the Torah was the foundation to even understand what the Messiah was saying. But we see all through the scriptures that the prophets, Matthew 7:12, and I'm going to read this. These are the words of the Messiah. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. That's what the Messiah said to do. The law and the prophets. And I'm not saying that the New Testament is not credible, but the New Testament is what it is. It was a new concept. The Messiah read from the law and the prophets. He told us to get our understanding, first and foremost, from the law and the prophets. Even Matthew, another account, Matthew 11:13, for all the prophets and the law prophesied until John. Okay, and we also know that Matthew 22:40, the Great Commission, or the commandment, on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets, right? So we see this all throughout Scripture. Even when you go into Acts, Acts 13:15, even during the time of Acts, they weren't reading the book of Acts. They were reading, and after the reading, this is Acts 13:15, and after the reading of the law and the prophets, the rulers of the synagogue sent unto them, saying, Ye men and brethren, if ye have any word of exhortation for the people, say on. So this is not a new concept, that foundationally they were strict in observance to the law and the prophets. They were known for their ritual purity and strong apocalyptic views, meaning their end time views, because the scenes were noted for the Qumran writings. Anybody familiar with the Qumran? These words, they seem unfamiliar. Write them down and look them up. But the Qumran, they followed the Torah and the prophets. Many scholars associated the scenes with the Qumran and the Dead Sea Scrolls. The scenes were spoken of by Josephus. These were Israelite historians of the time. You got Josephus, by Philo of Alexandria, and within the Dead Sea Scrolls. So we have evidence to the scene's existence and adherence, even by our own historians, and not just listening to what I would like to present as pseudo-European intellect. Because, if you let your enemy tell your history, they won't, or your story, they don't tell you the truth. But we had our own scholars there. The scenes are believed to have emerged from 100 to 150 years BC. YAHAWAH'S was born and lived during the time when the scenes were established. So that's important, all right? The Essene community started to disappear during the first Jewish revolt against Rome. It's important because you had the Seleucid wars. You had these wars where the Romans came against and destroyed these groups. It wasn't just the Essenes. You had the Pharisees, the Sadducees, even groups like Sakari. And I know that sounds familiar, but some of them, they followed the law and the prophets and salvation separate from other nations. Some more than others. And then there were within some groups believed to be proselytizing. But my point for this teachers is to let you know it's truly nothing new under the sun. And during the time of YAHAWAH'S, One West wasn't even a thing. All right. And the groups of scenes, you're going to find out the scenes believe a lot of what we believe, even as the Israelite camps today. So the Essene community started to disappear during the first Jewish revolt against Rome. Rome came against these people. Why do you think Rome came against the Essene? Because they were promoting national salvation and the downfall of their kingdom. They were afraid of insurrection. The same way they didn't want the Negroes, the Latinos, and Native Americans to be separate, they wanted us to assimilate. And if we didn't assimilate, it was death. How did Christianity initially come to a lot of the tribes? Anybody know? How was Christianity pushed? Through the sword. You got the Knights Templars, you know, the Crusaders. All this was by force. The same with Islam. It was by the force of the sword. So we were forced into Christianity as we know it today. That's why you got the European images. All that stuff was forced. But they had a whole revolt. Just like with Nat Turner, Denmark, Vesey, anybody that came up against the present government or regime of that time was a threat to that government. So in the same way the Essenes were. If they were all love, why'd they kill him? If YAHAWAH'S was all love, why did the Romans act? They were the ones that actually murdered him, all right? So the Essene community started to disappear during the first Jewish revolt against Rome. The Romans destroyed their settlement in Qumran. Around 68 AD, the Romans also destroyed the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD. After the Second Temple was destroyed, the Essenes vanished from historical record. So they basically exterminated them. That's what the Romans did. So Israelite-only salvation, once again, did not start with One West. One West is a group of Israelites who emerged in 1969. They are widely credited for starting street teaching and being the first and only group of people to push the narrative of Israelite-only salvation. That's what they're saying. But the Essenes were doing the same thing. The Essenes were actually a group that separated from the mainstream, and they didn't believe in a community for all people. It was just for their kind. And it's interesting because the Messiah, of course, Matthew 15:24, I have not come before the lost sheep of the house of Israel, sounds similar, doesn't it? And he sends them 2 by 2, and we were street teaching, going to the highways and the byways. Does that sound like something that was established in 1969 or 68? It was going on then. In an attempt to discredit their doctrinal belief in Israelite-only salvation, many people have tried to push the narrative that the idea of an Israelite-only salvation is fairly new and only started with them as a group about 57 years ago. Many argue that no scholars, theologians, or people in the Bible ever believed in such a doctrine. They have tried to cite the One West group as false prophets, and due to their false prophesying, their doctrine of Israelite salvation has no credibility. A lot of Christians today do that, and you may find them trying to do that to you now when we go out there and minister in the way we do. What were the core beliefs of the Essenes regarding Israelite and Gentile salvation? This is important because these are direct descendants of ours, and they view Gentile salvation in the same way as many of the Israelite camps. The exact same way. The Essenes' writings emphasize a strong belief in the Most High's covenant with Israel. That's why you see places, salvation, we know what we worship for salvation is for the Jews. When you talk about all about the scriptures, even that all Israel shall be saved with an everlasting salvation, it makes no mention. This was their view too. And even when it relates to prophecies like Isaiah 60 and where you hear Gentiles, if you look at it through the eyes of the Essenes, it's in the same way. The way we're looking at it is in the same way. So the Essenes' writings emphasize a strong belief in the Most High's covenant with Israel, obedience to the law of Moses, separation from outsiders, and those who were considered corrupt. Who does that sound like? Because again, somebody got to be the 1/3, and somebody got to be the 2/3. The Essenes knew this. They were strongly focused on Israel's covenant, restoration, and Gentiles, heathens, non-Israelites were viewed as outsiders to that covenant. Now let's see where we see that type of mindset. First of all, who was the first covenant given to? The Torah. Who were the law and prophets given to? We know Israel. Who was the second covenant given to? Go to Hebrews 8, and let's see if this is a One West thing. Because I believe even Hebrews 8 was before One West. What do y'all think? You think so? Let's go to Hebrews 8, and we can go to verse 10. Shalom, everybody.
The book of Hebrews 8 and 10. For this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel.
With everybody.
With the house of Israel.
With all nations.
With the house of Israel.
Read.
After those days, saith Yahweh.
So this is even in the latter time. So even the new covenant, which the word new is actually a renewed covenant, is not, it doesn't say all nations. Read.
I will put my laws into their mind.
And you know what's interesting? What law? The same law that he gave us on Mount Sinai. The same law that he gave to the Israelites. Read.
And write them in their hearts.
Come on.
And I will be to them a God.
Come on.
And they shall be to me a people.
Come on.
And they shall not teach every man his neighbor.
So if we're a people, that's showing that at one time we became estranged to the covenant, and now we were no longer a people, but the renewed covenant with the same people is coming to make us a people again. Right? So we see that even in the book of Hebrews, it's showing that the covenant that was made with the Israelites. So we see even with the words of Hamashiach Yahawashi, I have not come but for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I want y'all to think about that. It sounds like the Essenes thought the same thing. And foundationally, even when we look at the mindset, what else did Yahawashi say? He said, don't go into the way of the Samaritans. Right? Well, he said, the gospel was to be preached, and his ministry was to the Israelites. The Essenes, the same thing. For those of y'all just coming in, we're proving that this farce that's being mentioned or trying to be inserted, that this is a One West doctrine. We're showing you that there's nothing new under the sun. And the group, the Essenes, during the time of Yahawashi and even before Yahawashi, believed the same way. All right? This was actually just like the One West. They taught that salvation and the Most High's divine favor was exclusively reserved for the righteous community of Israel. So when you get I would tell each and every one of you, if you could get a hold of some of the Qumran writings, the Dead Sea Scrolls, you'll see the separation there. And the Essenes were emphatic about Israel salvation only. They believed that they were the sons of light, and Gentiles and unfaithful Jews or Israelites were the sons of darkness. Doesn't that sound familiar? Give me the book of Amos 9 and 8. We're going to prove this is not a One West doctrine. What we teach is a biblical doctrine. It's a doctrine from the Most High. It's the doctrine of the Israelites. Amos 9 and 8. Somebody grab me Psalms 147. Was it 19 and 20? Read what you got.
This is Amos 9 and 8. Behold, the eyes of the power are upon the sinful kingdom, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth. That I will not utterly destroy the house of Jacob.
That sounds, he said, saving. Isn't that salvation? Saving. And he said, I'm not going to destroy the house of who?
The house of Jacob.
Read on.
Save Yahweh.
Come on.
For lo, I will command, and I will sit the house of Israel.
I will do what?
I will sit the house of Israel.
I'm going to sift everybody. I'm going to save everybody.
I will sit the house of Israel.
Read.
Among all nations.
Among where?
Among all nations.
Read on.
Like as corn is sifted in the sea.
Read on.
Yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth.
That's all Israel shall be saved. The righteous remnant of Israel shall be saved. Read on.
All the sinners of my people.
But even the sinners, doesn't that sound like the doctrine of the Essenes? Doesn't that sound like the doctrines of what we teach right now? Does that sound like One West originated that? Read on.
All the sinners of my people shall die by the sword.
Read on.
Which say, the evil shall not overtake, nor prevent us.
Come on.
In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof.
So we see that this is specific to Israel. I want you to go to the book of Joel 3, and we're gonna hold that there. Read what you got. I had somebody quote Psalm 147, 19 and 20. Who's got it? Go ahead, bring it out. You got it. Bring it out. Oh, praise it.
This is
He showeth his word. That word is law. That word is the law. So he showed the law to read on.
his statutes and judgments.
His statutes and judgments. He showed that to Jacob. Read on.
Unto Israel.
To Israel. Read on.
Verse 20. Yeah, not dealt so in nation.
He hadn't dealt so with any nation. And this is the misnomer about nation. Even when I hear people talk about ethnos, they try to, first of all, the word nation in its origin didn't come from ethnos, which is Greek. That's later on. Ethnos, when you do the research, there's another Greek word, which is ethne. Ethne is really, ethnos is specific to Israel a lot of times. Ethne is going into the other nation. So when people try to do this switcheroo, it says ethnos, ethnos is talking about Israel. All right? Matter of fact, hold that. I'm going to, we're going to get to that. Keep reading. So the other nations they don't even know the judgments. I want to give one more, Shalom. Give me, oh man, just in my mind. The other nations have not known them. We'll come back. I'll come back to you. All right. So, they believed they were the sons of light, and Gentiles and unfaithful Israelites were the sons of darkness. They believed the sons of darkness were destined for total annihilation rather than redemption. And so that sounds very familiar to the prophecies of the ultimate judgment and the lake of fire, right? And we're going to get into a little bit of that in the book of Job. So what do scholars, because a lot of people say, where's your proof? Where's your background? That this One West. Where are your what they call receipts? All right. What do scholars say about the Essenes? When YAHAWAH'S started his ministry in Judea and Galilee, the Essenes had already been a recognized Jewish group for teaching purposes for roughly a century or longer. They were already beaten to place, and they had separated themselves, but this was their mindset. Other major groups alongside them were the Pharisees, the Sadducees, you had the Zealots, Josephus, which is the Israelite historian, Philo, and Pliny the Elder, all describe the Essenes as being the main Jewish sect of that time period, meaning the main Israelites that believe salvation is only in Israel. The main sources for the Essenes' beliefs come from the above mentioned men. So you can look up these men. These were Israelites. And the Dead Sea Scrolls. I know that Josephus wasn't Philo, but the main sources for the Essenes' beliefs come from the above mentioned men and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Scholars conclude that the Essenes believed in an Israelite-only salvation based on how they describe the Most High's covenant people and outsiders. Many scholars conclude that the Essene community expected the Most High's end-time blessings and salvation to be primarily or exclusively for Israel. Who does that sound like? Sound like, oh, that's what we teach. Many Dead Sea Scrolls emphasize that the Most High's covenant is exclusively with Israel and list who their enemies were. So even the scrolls show that, hey, this covenant was only with the Israelites, and it'll show you who their enemies. You'll find that in some of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and I'm gonna read some of that to you. There are three main sources that prove the Qumran community. Yeah, that's where there are three main sources that prove the Qumran community, known as the Essenes, did not believe in Gentile salvation. I'm gonna read that again. There are three main sources that prove the Qumran community, known as the Essenes, did not believe in Gentile salvation. They include the community rule, and scholars attest to these writings, to these scrolls. These are actual scrolls. The community rule, the war scroll, and the Damascus document. These scrolls were found in 11 caves between 1947 and 1954. The community rule, which was also referred to as the Manual of Discipline, is one of the first scrolls to be discovered near the ruins of Qumran. It's a crucial sectarian document and is seen as definitive writing. It details the strict laws, daily life, and spiritual beliefs of the Essenes. The community rule directly rejects the possibility of Gentile salvation and strictly prohibited any form of mingling with them. Remember what the scriptures say? We went taking nothing from the Gentiles, right? They believed Gentiles were completely excluded from the Most High's covenant. And we just read scriptures that prove that he hadn't dealt with it. Matter of fact, give me Isaiah 40 and 17. That's what I want. Give me Isaiah 40 and 17. The community rule. This is one of the writings that I'm going to read to you. It talks about the community rule. And then we're going to get into some of the things that it says. In the community rule, humanity is divided into two groups, the sons of light and the sons of darkness. Its main focus was how to separate from Gentiles in daily life. It was teaching. These were teachers going on how we were to separate during the time of Yahawashi and before Yahawashi. All right? Give me Isaiah 40 and 17.
This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 17. All nations before him are as nothing.
Come on.
And they are counted to him less than nothing. And
They're what?
As less than nothing.
So all nations before him are nothing, and they're counted as less than nothing. This wasn't even a conceptual thing prior to the Roman Greco rule. Where people had to kind of determine, this was the rule of thumb amongst the Israelites. And like I said, the Essenes being one of the main sects. So there is no provision for Gentile salvation in the community rule. The document operates on a strict system of predestination. That's why when we read places like Romans 9. Matter of fact, somebody get it real quick. You know what I want, Romans 9. Yeah, predestination, this was in the community rule. The document operates on a strict system of predestination where salvation belongs exclusively to the chosen remnant of Israel. The community had zero interest in proselytizing. Who's that sound like? Sound like us. We ain't got no interest. What do you have to do with me? And even the proving of somebody of another nation, Yahawashi gave an example. The first thing you got to do is ignore them. The second thing you would have to do is try to send her away. The third thing that would have to happen, they would have to acknowledge that you are the children of the Most High and beg for some crumbs and acknowledge that they're dogs. How many people doing that without some form of judgment? They're not. So even Yahawashi gave the prerequisite. We got his actions and even how to deal with the other nations. And that's really not at all. The community had zero interest in proselytizing or saving the Gentiles because they were seen as fundamentally outside of the Most High's covenant that was made with Israel and his model for redemption. So read what I had, what scripture that was called? Yeah, go ahead and get that, all right.
You want me to start from the top?
Yes.
Romans 9:1. I say the truth in Christ, I lie not. My conscience also bear me witness to the Holy Ghost, that I have great heaviness and continual sorrow in my heart. For I could wish that myself were accursed from Christ for my brethren, my kinsmen, according to the flesh, who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption,
Come on.
and the glory, and the covenants, and the giving of the law, and the service of God, and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning...
You know the most important thing concerning that right there is whose are the fathers. Everything else is super important, but that's telling you these are the people that the Most High came for and who belong to the Most High. Read on.
And of whom as concerning the flesh Christ came.
Even adoption, which is synonymous with ingrafting. Those are all Israelites. Read on. And concerning the what?
Concerning the flesh Christ came.
This goes back to Matthew 15:24. Matthew 1:21. And all throughout the scriptures. So this idea that this was a One West doctrine of salvation only for Israel is preposterous. It's crazy. It's crazy. But to those that are unlearned, you would accept that coming from pseudo-European intellect.
Oh, sorry. I had a precept.
I bring it out. I'll bring it.
Acts 5:31.
That's right.
Him hath the Most High exalted with his right hand to be a prince and a savior, for to give repentance to Israel.
To everybody.
To Israel.
So if you can't repent, can you be saved? And we're going to see what the only saving grace. I'm going to give you an example. It's like this. I have a plate or a feast for my people. Got everybody, got a cat here, got everybody, and this is for us. And the equivalent of giving salvation to the nations would be
Can I get one?
dogs coming here. You take all that food that was prepared and you start giving it to them. Matter of fact, you let a dog sit at the table with you and start eating off of your plate with you. It's a difference if I give them crumbs from my plate, but they still got to be outside. Dogs are without. They're going to be outside. And that was the analogy that YAHAWAH'S gave with his encounter with that woman. However, we have to understand that complete separation, there's separation between people and dogs. All dogs don't go to heaven. Matter of fact, no dogs go to heaven. Read.
Whose are the fathers?
Whose are the what?
Whose are the fathers?
Read on.
And of whom as concerning the flesh Christ came.
Hamashiach YAHAWAH'S, who the world even calls Jesus, this is who the people came for. And this is what Paul says. So any other of his epistles that you try to manipulate to say something else, it can't be as definitive as what we just heard here. But my focus tonight is that, again, One West didn't come up with this doctrine. This is the doctrine of the Bible. This doctrine is used by historians to contrast early Christianity. The early church struggled with how to include Gentiles in Acts 15. However, the Qumran community rule book had already settled the question. And this is why we hear writings like Paul's writings, which are hard to be understood. That's why Paul had to go ahead and take a Nazarite, make sure that he was a Nazarite vow to show that he was still in line with the teachings of the law and the prophets. All right? But the early church struggled with this. The Qumran community rule book had already settled the question by building an absolute wall of spiritual and physical separation. And you'll find this in the community rules. For time's sake, I'm not going to go into all of Acts 15, but I do want to say this. The Jerusalem Council ruled that the Gentile believers were saved through faith in YAHAWAH'S. You got to think about who was the Jerusalem Council. And what was it made up of? Romans. Wasn't it always the Romans' mindset to amalgamate, to assimilate all nations? That was their job. We see that in the Apocrypha. We see that where they wanted to have one language, be one people. That's what they do. That's why we're speaking English now. That's why we speak Spanish now. These were all European conquests. Even in the Marine Corps, we have a phrase called semper fi, which is Latin, meaning always faithful. You see what I'm saying? They were faithful to making sure that we were ignorant and that we would amalgamate and become one people and have everybody saying Zeus Christos. Zeus because it's Zeus, but Jesus Christos, right? He was never called by that name as a child in Israel. That was Roman Greco indoctrination. So they were not required to be circumcised, and only a minimal amount of restrictions applied concerning dietary and moral laws. Historical Dead Sea Scrolls viewed Gentile salvation with hostility, predicting their ultimate destruction at the end of time. It speaks of the explicit mandate of complete separation from Gentiles, non-Israelites, to avoid spiritual defilement and religious practices. We see that's congruent with Deuteronomy 7. We see that all throughout the law. You could sell roadkill to heathens, but we ourselves could not partake of it. We could use usury on the heathen. We could charge interest, but we ourselves, I can't charge my brother interest. That's the separation. The Essenes would not have agreed with the view of Gentile presented in Acts 15 as it's interpreted. So we got to think, we're looking through the lens of the law and the prophets, exactly what Yahawashi told us to do. Exactly what the Most High told us to do. I had somebody holding Isaiah 8 and 20. Grab that real quick. The Essenes viewed Gentiles as inherently impure and had strict rules on avoiding and mixing with them. One West didn't come up. The Essenes were doing this the whole time, as they should be. Read, go ahead, bring it up. Yeah.
Isaiah 8 and 20, it says, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to the word, it is because there is no light in them.
And what word are they talking about? What was it, Paul's epistles? Absolutely not. That's not what that word, Paul's epistles wasn't even a thing. So what word are they talking about? And most people will go to Paul to justify salvation for all people. But that's not the word they were telling you to go by. They were telling you to go by the law. The Essenes, so we look at through the lens of the Essenes, which is they were looking through the lens of the law. Remember what I said earlier, they were strict observant Israelites of the law and the prophets. The Essenes would have strongly opposed it or strongly struggled with it. Like I said before, Captain Yashu, the Romans had during these revolts, the Romans came and destroyed the Essenes. They snuffed them out. When do they snuff our people out? Whenever we uprise, whenever we get informed, whenever we realize who they are and we decide to separate. What did they do to our cities? Flooded them. Well, in the 1920s when we were segregated, we did not force integration. We didn't win integration. Integration was forced upon us. All right? And these are the same people that will tell you that salvation is for everybody, but won't say that you're a Hebrew Israelite. Call you a black Hebrew Israelite. Read. What you got? Bring it out.
This is Acts 24 and 14.
Bring it up.
And it says, and this is Paul, but I confess unto thee that after the way which they call hearsay, so worship I, the God of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets.
Come on. Written in the law. So he's another witness. Paul observed what was written in the law and prophets. And when you look at how we died, how the disciples died, how Paul died, They all died as what? As a martyr. A martyr is rebellious to the government. So he couldn't have been teaching everybody to get along. Because that's what Rome was teaching. That's what the Grecian world was teaching. So why did Paul was killed upside down on a cross. He was crucified. Who was peeled? One of the disciples' skin was peeled, boiled alive.
Makes you think about John the Baptist.
John the Baptist, beheaded.
Many think he was in a scene.
He was a sick, that's right. I believe he was, it's funny you said that. I believe that was John the Baptist and his disciples would believe, I believe they were sinners. Definitely. And they would teach us, think about what they did. John the Baptist lived in the woods. He was eating locusts. He is separated from society. All right? That's how the Essenes lived. They separated. With all that, the Essenes would have strongly opposed it or strongly struggled with it. With all that being said, you can see how the Essenes were a group of Israelites who believed in Israel only salvation, and the theology, the doctrine did not start with the group of One West Israelites in 1969. The War Scroll. And I'm telling you, when y'all get a chance to read these things, these are our ancestors' records. And the War Scroll. The War Scroll is an ancient document describing a prophesied decades-long apocalyptic war between good and evil. And this is going to line up with Revelation. It details military tactics, weapons, descriptions, trumpet signals, prayers, and much more. The document views Gentile salvation as entirely impossible, explicitly detailing their total violent destruction by the hand of the Most High. It stands as the apocalyptic military manual focused on annihilating the Gentiles in end-time cosmic war. And even these people know that they're coming out of the cosmos. Even with CERN and all the things, and Space Force, they know their war is on the horizon. Read them. This is the War Scroll 1QM. Yeah, 1QM. So just going over some of them. But we're going to spend some time, because like I said, we're going to start getting into a little deeper things, but get into the historical aspect and the foundation, because people act like we didn't live before, we just started living now. No, we were people, we were organized, and we were committed. Many of us were committed to our claim. So in the War Scroll, the Gentiles are personified as the ultimate enemy and combatants, the Katim. And the Katim refers to Romans and Greeks. And they don't say individual, they don't say the good ones, they don't say the bad ones. And we're going to see that in the book of Joel. References the Romans and the Greeks. There is no concept of mercy, conversion, or salvation for the Gentiles, because their kingdom, they've had it to rule. The document explicitly states the final war will result in extreme destruction for all the company of darkness, and that no remnant shall survive the son of the sons of darkness. They held the worldview of predestination, eradication. Who would be the ultimate sons? And notice they mentioned Katim. Who would be the ultimate sons of darkness according to the Bible? Esau. Absolutely. Because Obadiah, he's eradicated, said none of them are going to remain. The house of Esau is for what? Stubborn. It's going to be ultimately destroyed. The dark side. But they call us the dark ones. You see what I'm saying? They're the dark side. They held a worldview of predestinated eradication. The War Scroll operates on a binary view, stating Gentiles inherently belong to the line of Satan. Now, who calls them Satan? They say that's a One West Doctrine. It's seen it the same way. Call them Satan. And are divinely predestinated for slaughter, not redemption. And you can find this in these writings. The War Scroll continues. Listen, the war is depicted as a 40-year holy campaign. That's why the Islam got it from us. They called it jihad. But before jihad, there was yahad. All throughout, which is holy war. The yahad, not jihad, but yahad. The war is depicted as a 40-year holy campaign where the Israelite sectarian army fights alongside holy angels, including spiritual warfare. We see YAHAWAH'S Revelations coming back. He's gonna rule with a rod of iron. His garment would be bathed in blood. That don't sound like love for everybody. They believe that the camp, think about this, the scenes, the word camp, they believe that the camp must remain perfectly pure for the angels to dwell there. So any contact, compromise, or treaty with Gentiles is strictly forbidden. How you gonna make a treaty with your enemy? North American Indians know not to do the so-called Indian or indigenous know not to do that. Right? We see what happened. All right? Make a covenant, get smallpox. All right? Make a covenant, get put on a reservation. Rather than converting Gentiles, the text envisions Israel plundering Gentile wealth and in the scriptures that come to your mind, bring them out. Gentile wealth and ruling over the world. We always talk about Esau as what? The end of the world. Jacob is the world as follows, which is completely empty of non-believers. The peace accomplished at the end of the war scrolls achieved not by redeeming the Gentile nations, but by wiping them out entirely, only leaving Israel behind. Now, we know that there's some variance when we read Zechariah 14, but that's a precursor because even in Zechariah 14, when you read that, these heathens still have the opportunity to disobey. They said they don't come up to the house of Israel to bring, basically to pay tribute during the time of tabernacles. So when people try to insert, see, they're there in the kingdom. No, that's not the ultimate kingdom of heaven where it's just for us. No, that's a precursor. That's us ruling and reigning and having our rule until the time of the Gentiles is done with. Who were the enemies of the Essenes? The first column of the war scroll explicitly lists the following enemy nations and groups that make up the army of Belial, which is Satan. I will start reading the book of Joel 3. Let's go to verse 1.
This is the book of Joel, chapter 3, 1. For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem.
The bringing the captivity means he's going to bring us out of captivity. Come on.
I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat.
If we're going to teach the nations, this is what we need to teach them. Read.
And will plead with them there for my people.
Most people don't have they can't refute this scripture right here, this whole chapter, because this hasn't happened yet. And most people will tell you that it hasn't happened. If you got any sense. If they tell you this happened yet, then this is make-believe we live in it. Read.
And for my heritage Israel,
Come on.
whom they have scattered among the nations,
Come on.
and parted my land.
That's not Israel being judged. That's the nations being judged. Read. And it doesn't mention the good ones, the bad ones, the ones that we taught the word, the ones that accepted everything. No, read. It's indiscriminate.
And they have cast lots for my people,
Come on.
and have given a board for an harlot,
That's what they did to our people. Read.
and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. Ye, and what have ye to do with me, O Tyre and Zidon,
Come on.
and all the coasts of Palestine? Will ye render me a recompense?
He's asking the question, will you pay me back? Can you do something to make this not happen? Read.
And if ye recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon you.
I'm not even going to have it. I'm not going to allow you to do it. You can't fix this without me fixing you. Go ahead.
Because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temple my goodly pleasant things.
When they took and they robbed and raped and took the holy things out of the temple of the Most High. Come on, when Nebuchadnezzar was having a party with the set apart things unto the Most High, he wrote on the wall, the Most High wrote on the wall, you a dead man. You're messing with my stuff. What do you think the Most High gonna do with the nations that got the apple of his eye in their possession? Read.
The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head.
Revelations 13, 9 and 10. That's what that is. Read.
And I will sell your sons.
I will do what?
And I will sell your sons.
How you gonna teach them law, statutes, commandments when they got to be sold? Read.
And your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah, that they shall sell them to the Sabians,
Come on.
to a people far off. For Yahawah hath spoken. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles.
This is do what?
Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles.
That's what we should be teaching. This is what you teach the heathen. Read on.
Prepare war.
Do what?
Prepare war.
You don't, ain't no trouble, ain't no romanticizing, ain't no trying to get along to squeeze them in, tell them just keep law, statutes, and commandments. Do what?
Prepare war.
Prepare war. Come on.
Wake up the mighty men.
Wake up the mighty men. Come on.
Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up.
That's right.
Beat your plowshares into swords.
Yeah, get ready to fight. Read on.
And your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong.
Come on.
Assemble yourselves, and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together.
He
round about.
said, wait a second. He said, oh, the heathen. What did he say? The children, little children, y'all gonna be spared.
All ye
Did he say all white people ain't bad? I didn't think none of that there. But all Africans ain't bad. Hamites that did stuff. All, you know. Yeah, all of them ain't bad. Come on. All East Indians ain't bad. So they, you know, some of them are good.
all ye heathens, and gather yourselves together round about.
Come on.
Thither, cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahawah. Let the heathen be wakened, and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat.
That's the valley of decision. That's what has to happen to them. Come on.
For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision.
There's going to be multitudes in the valley of decision. And that's judgment on the nations. Read on, finish that up.
For the day of Yahawah is near in the valley of decision.
Woo, it's coming. And if y'all can't feel, that's why we got to get right. The day is coming, judgment is coming on the nations. But we read Amos 9 and 8. You won't be spared if you're wicked. And this was the same mindset of the Essenes. And this was prior to 1968, 69, and One West. Thinking just like us. The Essenes think just like us. Read.
The sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. Yahawah also shall roar out of Zion,
Come on.
and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the heavens and the earth shall shake. But Yahawah will be the hope of his people.
Of who?
Of his people.
Of all people.
Of his people.
Come on.
And the strength of the children of Israel.
Woo! Come on.
So shall ye know that I am Yahawah, your God, dwelling in Zion, my holy mountain. Then shall Jerusalem be holy, and there shall no strangers pass through her anymore.
What?
And there shall no strangers.
Some of the strangers.
No strangers.
We're going to have a few that's going to treat us okay.
No strangers
Come on.
pass through her anymore. And it shall
Look how y'all smiling. I see y'all. That's going to be a great day, man. You know how pure that place is going to be? How undefiled? Man, you ain't never had no fried chicken like you had. That's the purest wine. Remember, Yahawash said he ain't going to drink of the vine again. All right? Until his coming and his judgments. Come on.
And it shall come to pass in that day that the mountains shall drop down new wine,
What I just said. That wine. Come on.
and the hills shall flow with milk.
You think the elder got a lot of hair now? Wait till and he gonna have It looked like a chariot. Go ahead.
And all the rivers of Judah shall flow with waters,
Come on.
and a fountain shall come forth of the house of Yahweh, and shall water the valley of Shittim.
Man.
Egypt shall be a desolation,
Come on. All of you. Come on.
and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness.
Look what it's, that's how the Essenes believe the same thing. Read on.
For the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. But Judah shall dwell forever, and Jerusalem from generation to generation. For I will cleanse their blood that I have not cleansed, for Yahweh dwelleth in Zion.
Hallelujah. So when you look at the Essenes, who were the enemies of the Essenes? The first column of the war scroll explicitly lists the following enemy nations and groups that make up the army of Belial or Satan. It also included any and all other violators of the covenant, including our people, opponents or apostates who sided with the sons of darkness. So you trying to save these sons of darkness? The Essenes, the same way we feel about people that try to proselytize, the same way the Maccabees felt about our own people that tried to proselytize, the same way that Phinehas felt about our people that tried to proselytize. That's how the Essenes feel. And that's how we feel. But that's not a One West Doctrine. Their enemies were Edom, Moab, Ammon, Amalekites, Philistia, the Kittim of Asher, which are the Romans, and the kings of the north. Those were our enemies. The Damascus document. The Damascus document is the foundational ancient, what they would say is Jewish text, but we already talked about those historians, Philo, Josephus, I forget, Pliny. So the Jewish text, written in the 2nd century BCE, older cave fragments of the document were found in 1952 among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran. Later in 1966, so even this document that was found was before One West. Not found. Yeah, it was actually before One West started. Later in 1996, the Damascus document was found as part of the older fragment by Solomon Sketcher. The Damascus document outlined the history, strict communal laws, and beliefs of the ancient Israelite sect of Essenes. It served as both a code of conduct and a theological warning for the community of Israel who was keeping the Most High's covenant, holds an extreme theological stance that completely excludes Gentiles from salvation. Yeah, I'll keep on that proposal. The Damascus document continued, page 2. It details how they held an exclusivist and hostile stance towards Gentiles, believing they had no path to salvation and were destined for destruction at the end of days. They did not believe in a universal or inclusive salvation. They viewed salvation as a privilege reserved strictly for those within the Most High's covenant. We already went to Hebrews 8 and we saw where even the renewed covenant was for Israel. They believed in a strict us versus them. And when you see all the scriptures in James and this and you see just us, the word us, that's all Israel. They believed in a strict us versus them, apocalyptic worldview. They believed that during the final cosmic battle, the Most High would destroy all Gentiles alongside the wicked Israelites. Another scroll document to highlight, and I'm almost I know it's been a little lengthy, but we're going to get to it just a little more. Just like, and you can research and find this for yourself, just like the war scroll, the temple scroll provides the most aggressive stances against Gentile presence during the end times. Now remember, those of you who were here initially, you know the time frame. The Essenes lived during the time YAHAWAH'S and before YAHAWAH'S. And during the revolts and the Romans, they destroyed the Essenes. They took them out. They were a problem. You know, they were Nat Turner times 1,000. It was a problem in their thinking. Just like the war scroll, the temple scroll provides the most aggressive stances against Gentile presence during the end times. The temple scroll places heavy generational restriction on temple entry. And we know this even according to the Bible. You got the inner court and you got the outer court. The inner court is always for strictly for Israel. Even through biblical law, you had the Gentiles couldn't come into the inner court. You'd be destroyed. They killed you. Even the priests even had to be of a certain status to be in the Holy of Holies. The temple scroll places heavy generational restriction on temple entry. It banned Gentiles and even the children and grandchildren of Gentile converts from entering the holy inner courtyards, maintaining that having a Gentile background carried an immutable ritual defilement. They believed that a Gentile, even if proselytized, because we know they knew the scriptures we were going to have as servants, but there was no equality, no salvation. They believed that a Gentile, even if proselytized, could not alter their intrinsic spiritual allotment. They believed that even a proselytized Gentile would ultimately face annihilation on the day of judgment. Their conversions were considered invalid, and they would be destroyed alongside the rest of the Gentiles in the final battle. And that's why I said even in scriptures like Zechariah 14, it still has contingencies if they don't want to, if they don't come up. And that's what we're ruling. These devils are going to resist it. Scholars and the Essenes continue. It is a unanimous academic consensus that there were groups who believed in Israelite salvation only. Virtually every major Qumran scholar agrees that the Essenes held an exclusive nationalistic theology that restricted salvation strictly to their own people, Israel. John J. Collins, Yale Divinity School, for those that need it, we don't need it because we know who salvation is for. The Spirit has been with us to teach this, but for those that need it, John J. Collins, Yale Divinity School, outlines the worldview of the Essenes, stating they believe humanity was rigidly split into the sons of light and the sons of darkness, and that's mentioned in the scroll. In this theology, Gentiles and non-inerrant Jews are predestined for annihilation, which we know the 2/3 and the heathen, while salvation is strictly reserved for the covenant-keeping remnant of Israel. I'm going to give you some scholarly sources. Continue. Lawrence Schiffman, New York University, is widely regarded as one of the world's leading authorities on religious laws and sectarian ideology of the Dead Sea Scrolls. He emphasizes that the Qumran community viewed itself as the only true Israel. He explains in detail how they believe mainstream Jews had forfeited their covenant with the Most High. Who that sound like? That sound like us. That's who we out there teaching. And lost their chance for salvation. Now we differ in that. That's where we differ with the things. Like I said, we didn't agree with everything, but the concept of an exclusive salvation for Israel, my point tonight is to prove that that's not a One West thing. He emphasizes that the group's theology was deeply rooted in cosmic dualism and predestination, like we brought out Romans 9. Geza Vermes, late professor at Oxford University, was a pioneer in Dead Sea Scrolls research and the first to translate them into English. He argued that the Essenes practiced an elite, hyper-isolated form of Judaism. He explicitly noted that they viewed the rest of humanity basically as nothing, like Isaiah 40:17, especially the Gentile world as entirely excluded from the Most High's grace and slated for destruction at the end of days. So in conclusion, there were many other Jewish sects before and during the time of YAHAWAH'S who believed in salvation for Israel only. It is completely untrue to say One West Israelites created that belief. And therefore it must be thrown away just because it's believed to be a newer concept that has never been heard of before. Air rise in Harlem, New York, or say it rose in New York 57 years ago. That's just ridiculous. So, you know, I conclude with that, and that's all I got for right now. So I'm gonna give you a little food for thought, and we're gonna close. We're not gonna be too much longer. If somebody could give me the book, of 1 Thessalonians 5. And, officers upon you, you recording this? Come, so good, other people can go back. It's important that you go back and look at this, because anybody that comes with that nonsense on the street and that document, this One West, and this was developed in 1969, that was eradicated tonight. I mean, it's been eradicated, but if you ever had any doubt, we got too much proof. So, give me the book of 1 Peter, let's start at 2. Just a proof of thought. And then we're gonna enjoy it. 2, chapter 2, let's start at verse 1. And this is what y'all will love. I do want to say this real quick. Know that even in your illness, whether it be physical or spiritual, you should be fully persuaded. Be fully persuaded, because there's a benefit even in sickness. And I know that sounds wild, but there's a benefit in sickness. And a lot of the times, the majority of the times, and when you're in right standards with the Most High, and you're walking the straight and narrow, it's to show His power. And sometimes I know it's difficult, but the road, the straight and narrow road, is full of adversity. That's where your trials begin. It's to knock you off to the left or to the right. It doesn't want you to go through. But once you know what's on the other side, that should be your motivation to get through the trial. But that's our test to see if you're gonna give up. We gotta go through. You gotta go through. You gotta stay and maintain and stay on that road and not give up. So give me 1 Peter 2. Sorry.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 1. Wherefore, laying aside all malice.
Because this is luggage that we take with us on the straight and narrow road. You're gonna want to defer. You're gonna want to get off of that straight and narrow, because this is not a path that you can have unnecessary luggage. Just like Jerusalem or Yarushalayim, the Camel's Gate, the entry into Jerusalem was just enough for a camel to get through and somebody on it. But if you had a lot of luggage, you couldn't get in it. You had to get rid of that. Read on.
Wherefore, laying aside all malice and all guile and hypocrisy and envies and all evil speaking.
Come on.
Verse 2, as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word.
I want y'all to think about that going forward. We have to desire this thing and operate as new humility. Humility is going to be your key. Humility is going to be your deliverance in these last days. If you're not humble before the Most High, find some humble pie and eat it. Get a whole cake. Have somebody make you a humble dinner every night. Humility is what we're going to need to continue on. Because the Most High, He makes the humble, He'll exalt the humble, but He will bring down the pride. And we always see men fail because of their pride. These camps have failed because of their pride. Relationships fail because of pride. Read on.
That ye may grow thereby. Verse 3. If so be have tasted that Yahweh is gracious.
If all of us in here, we have to, or we should acknowledge that the Most High has been faithful to us, that He's been merciful to us, and that He hasn't given us what we deserve. A lot of us have been obstinate. A lot of us have been stumbling. You know what I'm saying? And the Most High hasn't given us what we deserve. Many of us deserve death. Many of us don't deserve another opportunity to do it. But if we understand that, read on.
Verse 4. To whom coming as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of the Most High and precious.
Come on.
Verse 5. Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, and holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices.
That's what we're supposed to be doing in this time, along that straight and narrow path. That's our job, to offer up spiritual sacrifice. That's what this life is about. It's about selflessness. It's about you can't be proud and be selfless. If you're proud, you're gonna be selfish. You're gonna just think about your own needs. and not the needs of the one that created. Me and I will tell you know how arrogant you gotta be to disregard somebody that's been where you're trying to go. You know how prideful and arrogant you gotta be. The Messiah had already died. He said, you love me, you keep my command. Why wouldn't you follow him to the letter? He already did it. Read.
Acceptable to the Most High and Hamashiach YAHAWAH'S, verse 6. Wherefore also it is continued in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded.
You won't be confounded. So let's end it there. This is what you need to take with you in your comprehension on the straight and narrow path. It's one thing to get on the straight and narrow, but it's easy to get knocked off. We got to get rid of that luggage that was first mentioned. You got something? Yeah. So that's exactly what I'm doing. Come, give me that Thessalonians. What's the First Thessalonians 5? Yeah. Let's go there. First Thessalonians 5. So we got to make sure, and I'm gonna just leave you with those two. But make sure that you go over what was going over tonight. We're gonna have more of these kind of on the studious level teaching so that we'll be equipped. You need to know that history. Because when people tell you, yeah, that was invented by One West came up with that. Come here, get out of here. Start at verse 1.
It's the book of 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 1. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you.
Come on.
Verse 2. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of Yahweh so cometh as a thief in the night.
It's coming, beloved. The day of the Most High is coming as a thief in the night. All right? And once that death angel sent out, a lot of times it's too late. Once the Most High get an order, Most High don't give a lot of orders there and then he tell them, don't do it. Now there's occasions, but most of the time he send the order out. They send special forces, the Marines overseas, they ain't over there to do nothing. They over to get somebody. Go ahead.
Verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them.
Don't get too comfortable. And a lot of times we equate this with other people. Now let's talk about Israel. But remember, we're rebellious people. When you think it's safe, you think this your rest, you get too comfortable, ain't nothing really happening, ain't nothing going on. Read that part again.
For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them.
Come on.
As travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape.
Read on.
Verse 4, but ye brethren are not in darkness.
We're not in what?
We are not in darkness.
Come on.
That day shall overtake you as a thief.
We can't allow, but y'all, at this point, we shouldn't be in the darkness. We should be in the know. We should be the illuminated ones. That darkness, the thing that darkness can't comprehend or overtake is light. Darkness can't do nothing with light. So we gotta make sure that we're not the light and that we don't get consumed with the darkness. Come on.
Verse 5, ye are all children of light and children of the day.
Come.
We are not of the night nor of darkness.
Now notice, and this even goes into the same doctrine, where it's talking about people. We're the children of the light. You gotta be children of darkness. But the Israelites, and in this text is dealing with observant, obedient Israelites, being the children of light. That's right, man. We know that's right. That's right. The dark side. Yeah, that's right.
It says, ye are all the children of light and the children of the day. We are not the children of night nor of darkness. Therefore, let us not sleep as do others.
That was the mindset of the scenes. Come on.
But let us watch and be sober. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that be drunken are drunken in the night.
Come on.
But let us who are of the day be sober, putting on the breastplate of faith and love, and for an helmet the hope of salvation. For the Most High have not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by YAHAWAH'S HaMashiach.
Stop right there. And that's what we should be looking for, beloved. Salvation by Hamashiach Yahawah, who came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel only. And with that, I say shalom.